What's up, everyone? John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo here with a full review for you of AT&T's HTC One X. Let's go ahead, dig in, and see if the carrier-branded Snapdragon S4-powered One X deserves a spot in your pocket. Alright, so this guy is going to be available on May 6th. Pre-orders are going on now for $199 with a 2-year contract, or $550 if you want to get it without a contract. Definitely go ahead and check the carrier's website for prices, because that may change by the time you're watching this video. Alright, so this review is going to be broken down into 6 categories. We're going to talk about hardware, software, camera, call quality and data, battery life, and then draw a conclusion. If at any time you want further explanation of anything that I'm saying, be sure to hit the link down below to go to the full written review on technobuffalo.com. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about hardware and run through the specs of this guy. From a dimension standpoint, it is 5.3 inches by 2.75 inches by 0.36 inches. And it weighs 4.6 ounces. And for those of you that like to keep track of things at home, that is 1 ounce heavier than the International Tegra 3 model. The display is, of course, always measured diagonally. It's 4.7 inches with a resolution of 720 by 1280. That is a super LCD screen. Powering this guy is a 1,800 milliamp hour battery that HTC and AT&T advertise will get you 8.5 hours of talk time. It's being powered by a 1.5 gigahertz Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 dual-core processor. The international version is running Tegra 3, which is quad-core. This version, for LTE compatibility, has the very modern dual-core processor, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we move forward. RAM, it's got 1 gig. Internal storage is 16 gigs, and it's capped at 16 gigs. There is not a micro SD card to be found on this guy. From a camera standpoint, we are looking at an 8-megapixel camera on the back with an LED flash and can shoot 1080p HD video. That's not the only camera this guy's got. It also has a front-facing 1.3 megapixel sensor. Network, so it does run LTE. It's LTE compatible, so if you're in an LTE area, you'll be getting some blazing 4G speeds. And as is the case with all of AT&T's LTE phones, it falls back on HSPA Plus if you're outside of an LTE area. Bluetooth 4.0 and is available in 2 colors, white and gray. It's also rocking Beats audio technology and includes HTC's image chip and Sense 4.0. Alright, so let's talk about screen and hot diggity dog. This is one of the most beautiful screens I have ever seen on a mobile device. The 4.7 inch 720 by 1280 Super LCD screen is the new hotness. Text looks absolutely awesome on this. If you're viewing a website and you want to pinch to zoom in and see how crisp and clear text is going to look, the answer is it's going to look very crisp and extremely clear. No pixelation at all. But that's true with most phones. Photos look absolutely great on here, and video is going to totally pop. So if you want a phone that's going to have a gorgeous screen, this is definitely the one. But because it's such high resolution, there are some downsides as well. Look at the icon rows here. So you're limited to 4 across, and there's a huge space in between them. If you go ahead and look, I mean, you can almost get a whole other row of icons in between them. Visually, for me, I found it to be a bit annoying. So you might want to turn to some third-party launchers. They're going to give you some control over what you can do and how many icons the home screen will show. Alright, so next let's jump into software. This guy is running the latest version of Android, Ice Cream Sandwich. It's shipped with version 4.0.3. It also has HTC's Sense 4.0 added. And that adds a decent amount of options here. So, for example, the highlight, at least for me, is the lock screen. You can go ahead and customize what icons you've got on the lock screen, and when you want to open one up, you just drag it into the ring, and that's going to quick launch wherever you are located. Widgets here, of course, you've got HTC's custom widget array, and there are quite a few. So if you go ahead and go long press, you're able to go to widgets, and you can see everything that HTC added in here, including a ton of clocks, and they're really iconic now, weather clock options, and there are now 2 options there to go ahead and pick what you would like. One of the knocks that I do have, though, on Sense 4.0 is how they handle multitasking. I really liked how original, raw, unskinned Ice Cream Sandwich handled multitasking. You got a whole row of applications. You can go ahead and pick the one you want. On Sense 4.0, you really can only see one at a time. So right there, I've got recent apps. Now I can see that there's one to the left. There we go. So I can see that there's one to the left and one to the right, but I can't really see what they are and they're not labeled. So if I want to go ahead and see what I've got, I got to go ahead and scroll over to go ahead and see that was gallery and that was camera and that's internet. Now to close, it's still the same way that we saw an ice cream sandwich. Go ahead and swipe it right off the screen. And that is always very satisfying and fun, but a little bit of a knock on Sense 4.0. One of the other knocks I have on Sense 4.0 is the keyboard that shipped with this guy. I found it to be absolutely atrocious. Take a look at how crowded that guy is. You've got 4 arrow keys on the bottom taking up precious real estate, and keys that are a little bit too narrow for me. But one of the nice things about Android is if you don't like this keyboard, you don't have to use this keyboard. But if you're the kind of person that's not going to go and download third-party keyboards from Google Play, this is what you're going to have to live with, and it's not very good. Further sort of rounding up what HTC offers here, you've got some customization options as well. If you go into settings and go into personalize, you've got things called skins and scenes, and they can kind of be a bit confusing what the differences are, but it can customize the way your device looks to make it sort of suit your need or what you are, where you are. So if you want to work one, you can have work options. There are a lot of choices, and they sort of just tweak how things look. Sense goes much deeper than that, but on the outside, those are the most common visual cues and the ones that I used the most. Alright, so next let's talk about camera, and camera is something I usually gloss over in my reviews because I'm not that big of a camera guy. The pictures look fine, they look fine. But something that I really want to address here on the 1X, this guy can capture pictures in 0.7 seconds and autofocus in 0.2, meaning you can take a ton of pictures and just have to keep the best one. It really became a very impressive feature of the phone. I found myself using the camera more because I knew I was going to get that perfect shot. Image sense adjusts the flash, but it's not always so great in dark light. 1080p video on here looks absolutely great. If you're the kind of shutterbug that really wants a camera that can replace your point and shoot, or at least come close enough to replace your point and shoot, really look no farther than the HTC One X. All right, so next let's talk about call quality. If it's not going to make good phone calls, it's not going to be much use to you. It's got a pretty strong antenna. I've got the SIM card out of it right now, so it doesn't ring when I'm filming this. But I was able to pull down a solid 4 to 5 LTE bars wherever I was in Southern California. Now certainly that's going to depend on where you are and how strong your network is and how many people are on it. But the antenna here was very strong. In my 20 call test, I had no drop calls. Call quality was very good as well. One of the things that I did find that I didn't like about it was it did not have the best background filtering. Todd, for example, made a call from an airport and able to hear just as clearly as you could hear him what was going on in the background. The speakerphone as well was a little bit on the quiet side, so if you rely heavily on speakerphone for in car or in office, you may want to give this a shot before you buy it. Battery, so it's being powered by a 1,800 milliamp hour battery that really isn't half bad. I was able to get 7.5 hours of talk time, which was an hour shorter than what HTC and AT&T advertised. And those were pretty simple tests on 100% full charge, a call a radio station, and leave it on hold and let it go until the phone died. And it was just a little bit past 7.5 hours. However, though, on regular usage and using it for maybe an hour or so of phone calls, pulling into emails, web browsing, and text messaging, I was very easily able to get through a full day with about 30% battery left. So pretty strong battery in here as well. Alright, so I know what you guys want to talk about, benchmarks and performance. How is this guy going to stack up to not only the international Tegra 3 version, but also the other phones in AT&T's pretty extensive phone lineup. This guy is an absolute screamer and handled everything we threw at it with aplomb. Quadrant, 5,055, CF bench 12,517, and these are unmodified ROMs. They're pretty impressive scores. So whether or not you're a heavy gamer or you watch a lot of video, don't be deterred by dual core here. Certainly you think more cores, better performance, and you do get a little bit better performance when it comes to games, but overall this has been the fastest experience that I've had on a mobile phone. I really came away impressed with what Qualcomm has done with the Snapdragon S4. I talked about hardware, software, camera, call quality, and battery life. What's the conclusion on this guy? Well, I'm guessing you can tell I'm a big fan. In fact, this phone is going to get a 9.0 on our really strict 10.0 scale, and is going to get our first Editor's Choice Award. It is the fastest Android experience that I've used. There isn't any sort of Android lag at all. Qualcomm's S4 chip handled everything like a rock star. I haven't been the biggest fan of Qualcomm's chipset in the past, but the S4 looks to change that. Everything about this phone screams awesome sauce, from that ridiculously gorgeous screen to the industrial build quality to Beats audio being built in and now being extended to third-party apps. HTC One X is definitely the best phone in AT&T's lineup. If you're looking to get a phone right now, you should not hesitate to pick up a One X. The phone that's not only going to serve you well now, but is going to serve you well over the next 2 years of your contract. Don't worry that it doesn't have Tegra 3 and quad core. We did notice a little bit of an improvement when it came to quad core for gaming, but this handled games quite well, and everything else, it was an absolute rock star. So 2 thumbs up to AT&T's One X. HTC, Google, and AT&T did an awesome job to bring LTE and just a really impressive package to the market. So again, this is going to get a 9.0 and an editor's choice on the very strict Techno Buffalo grading scale. If you guys want a more thorough explanation of anything I talked about, hit the link down below for the written review. Do you agree, disagree with my review of the HTC One X? I'm John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.